right, welcome everybody to the Redcast series. Today we have our case manager, Jackson, here again. So welcome, Jackson.
Thank you.
Today we're going to be having a chat about a win that we had for our member in regards to a case that you were looking after through the TPAQ, the Teachers Professional Association Queensland. Now it was a income protection claim, if I'm correct, Jackson.
Correct.
Yeah,
right.
Excellent. Now, would you like to run our members through the background of the case and how you worked with our member in regards to his income protection claim, and what were some of the processes that you went through to help him out?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a good story, again, because it really speaks to some of our core principles in terms of learning our members on how they should represent themselves in terms of professionally cooperating with different bodies that might be needed for them in their lifetime regarding things like income protection when they need it. And so in this instance, it was definitely needed, and it has to be backed up relevantly, as all things are usually with medical evidence. So provided those factors are in place and the member has a claim that is has integrity and can be legitimized very easily, we can very quickly proceed and get those claims approved. And normally it shouldn't be the case that we'd have to intercede in the matter, but in this instance we definitely did. Unfortunately, in this case, this member had this claim ongoing and being investigated for 3 months, and it was being tossed around. And the point of an income protection claim is to support yourself when you need income and you can't get it any other way. And there's some sort of implication, medical normally, that prevents you from earning enough to support yourself and earn a living. And so in this instance, it was the case that the member had a very valid reason, medically approved, signed off by the doctor, his practicing doctor at the time, and this was all submitted to the company who was processing his income protection claim. Now, the crux of the matter was the company talking to the right doctor. So he had a primary doctor who had originally signed off on the claim, and approved it all. So that's it. That's really all the evidence you need. The doctor affirmed that the matter was in fact due to a particular illness, and that was causing him to be unable to work at the time, and that he would need to access an income protection plan to support himself during his recovery. Now, the income protection company that was processing his claim heard this information and then started on this narrative with the member about his claim not having enough merit, or being unsubstantial for him, and that it wouldn't favour him if they processed his claim at the time. Strange, because it's been signed off by his doctor. All the information you asked for has been provided. So what else could you possibly need? Now, when pressed on the matter, they couldn't actually specifically disclose what it was that they wanted. Just that it wasn't going to be beneficial for the member, whatever that means. So obviously that's like an immediate red flag.
And so when they pressed on the matter, what was their reasoning behind pressing on the matter, if it was from a legitimate treating health practitioner from our members' behalf?
Well, their interest, like I said, was that the current perspective from his primary doctor wasn't favourable for approving his claim, and that was it. They kept it very vague and unspecific. And so, like I said, red flag. They literally only provided that much detail. And so what they did was the member had a previous doctor who he had actually had a falling out with. Unfortunately, the doctor was very dodgy, was offering like free counselling and unsolicited advice, and really just abused the member in their desperation to seek some help from a legitimate practitioner who he'd been recommended to by a friend.
So he was acting outside his scope, out of his practice scope.
Correct, yeah. What would normally be a responsible way to practice, he definitely wasn't doing that. He wasn't practicing his trade responsibly as a GP. And so the member goes and conversations happen and counselling's provided and arguments are happening between the member and the doctor, which is obviously poor practice on the doctor's behalf. And the member just says, well, this isn't working out. I don't think that you're doing a very good job. I just can't keep, having these conversations. What are you going to do? And the doctor's response was, well, I suppose you just get another doctor. So not good.
Yeah, so rather than engaging with him in the appropriate manner, he was acting outside his scope.
Yeah.
And also not willing to work with him further on the specific issue at hand.
Yeah, not at all. No, just dictating to him what he should do per the opinion of the doctor, which is, not good. It was unsolicited advice. It was all opinion-based. And so the member is proactive and leaves that doctor. Good. Goes to his new primary doctor. Now, the company who were aiming to approve the protection claim found out about this somehow down the grapevine. I think the member could have disclosed it to them in good faith, talking in reference to his experience and which practitioners he had been visiting originally regarding the matter that was addressed in the claim. Now, I have the understanding that they contacted this previous doctor, and the previous doctor disclosed that there was another factor specifically regarding vaccination that could have impeded on the member's ability to work. Now, did that prevent him from coming into work in the short term? Yes, but in fact his employer had actually issued a statement saying that any suspension issued regarding vaccination had been redacted for the period of time that the claim was being processed, and so they'd replace that with a period of stand down that was due to his income protection claim instead. And so the company knows this. They have this information already. He's already addressed this. Before he even came to us, the member had already been proactive and done everything right that you could possibly do in good faith, working with a company that you pay a lot of money to make sure that they're there to support you. And at every turn, they're trying to deny this claim and providing reasons that are vague, but supposedly assured because they have all these fancy documents to back them up, where that you fill and sign these dotted lines and etc. We're referring to this policy and blah blah blah. So to the untrained eye and the average citizen, it seems all very legitimate. Now, it's not. And they actually have no right to go and contact that member's previous doctor. They shouldn't be doing that. That's very unprofessional and out of the scope of the matter. They already have the information they need, and so they should have resolved it already. And they just will not approve this member's claim. They keep saying they need to hear from this other doctor, and they've now submitted a quote to the other doctor, and they provided the member a certificate asking him to sign it if they can go and contact the old doctor. The member signs it in good faith. Had he been a member with us at the time, I would have said definitely do not sign that document, but that's okay. We can roll with the punches here. And so they go and speak to the previous doctor, and then that doctor's asking like $600 quotes on returning documents signed just for him to sign a dotted line and read a couple of things and do up like a paragraph of writing. It's just ridiculous, like a scammer, basically. So unprofessional. So when he contacts us, he wants to know what we're doing. Now, this has been going on for 3 months. He wants to know what we can do. And I say immediately, after hearing this long story, this poor person has been messed around, thrown between this doctor, first of all, that's just abusing him, and then moving to this income protection claim company who are also abusing his vulnerability at the time. And so I say, well, here's the first thing. That doctor is way out of step, way out of practice, and I'm sure if we use some of your reports from that and you make a formal complaint, we can get that doctor reported. Because
and who would he be reported to?
APRA, most likely.
Okay.
And so we can report that doctor, and then we can make sure that no further contact is made with him, because that's a conflict of interest. You don't have a healthy relationship with him. In fact, you ended the relationship purely because you did not want his advice, and you needed a second opinion. And it was your impression that he was deliberately misconstruing things to give you unsolicited advice. So you have a conflict of interest there. Second thing is, the insurance company shouldn't even be reaching out to the income protection claim company, shouldn't even be reaching out to that doctor, because they already have all the information they need. What are they actually seeking? What's their justification to ask for that information? So how does that materialise on our end? Well, we put together a letter and we basically say, if you make any further contact with that doctor, it would be ill-advised because we are seriously considering making a report to APRA regarding his practice. We have legitimate concerns that he may be operating outside of his field and giving unsolicited medical advice. The member has a conflict of interest. He has previously had poor relations with this doctor and specifically left his practice because of his, irregular behaviour. And so you should go and therefore refer to the current practicing doctor, his primary doctor who signed off originally. And so this whole time, mind you, this member up to this point has been questioning things and considering himself in the wrong because they'd just been peppering him from every angle, telling him that things were going his way, like this wasn't going to get approved, and he's getting more and more desperate, right, because he's being starved for his income. He only has a finite amount. He can't earn any more at the moment. And so they know this and they're capitalising on it so that they don't have to approve the claim. Now, the letter goes out and we basically withdraw any consent ever given to talk to that doctor and tell them that they should immediately continue contact with his primary practicing doctor per the approval of the member. No response, nothing happens, and then about a week later, a meeting is set up with his primary doctor. They actually didn't even notify the member. The income protection claim company don't even notify the member that they've set up this meeting. The doctor, his primary practicing doctor, who's a fantastic guy, actually gets his secretary to notify the member.
Oh, wow.
Invite the member along. So the member wouldn't have even been there unless he'd been invited along by the secretary.
And so why is it, do you think, that the company did that and not informed their employee?
Well, they would have done that because the income protection claim company would have done that because they're nervous. They don't want him in there, I suppose, speaking his mind on his experience because they're conscious that the doctor's on side because he immediately signed the form when they sent it out.
So that would reflect badly on the income protection
Yeah,
company,
absolutely. It would.
So they were trying to save... It seems as though they were trying to save face.
Yeah, they're trying to settle it as quickly as possible, right? Mind you, never responded to my letter. So they're acting on the interests of the letter. They're doing exactly what they were instructed to do, or advised to do, I suppose I should say. It might have come off as instruction because it was probably pretty pointed, considering how much trouble they'd given this member. Ridiculous. And so anyway, they set up this meeting. The member attends. He gets in touch with his doctor ahead of time just to brief him and let him know that they'll be like his experience so far, which is he's more than entitled to do. They attend the meeting and they say, oh, okay, so is there any other factors? They ask the exact same questions they're going to ask this other doctor. His doctor stands by him and says, nope, it's exactly what I signed originally. And then they leave the meeting and the question is from the member, how long is it going to take to process this claim? It's been literally 3 months and I'm without income. When is this going to happen? Oh, we don't know. We can't give you can't give you a timeline. We'll see. Ridiculous, right? So inconsistent and unprofessional.
And how long did the entire process take for the member from start to finish?
Well, I'll get to that actually. That's the zinger, right? And so then about another week later, no contact. And I spoke to the member immediately afterwards. Once he finished his meeting, he called me again. And he was willing, the doctor was willing to have myself there as a support person. But the member was confident. I prepped the member really well to make sure that he felt comfortable. And he knew everything he had to say and what his entitlements were. And so that's where we're really powerful, where we can be used effectively as an industrial advocacy or essentially as a union, because we can really learn the members on what they're capable of and what their responsibilities are in terms of upholding their integrity. What are their rights? If you're questioning that these people are coming after what you believe is your right and your right to uphold your own integrity, then you should absolutely be calling your union immediately and asking questions. Sometimes it won't even require a letter. It's just a matter of informing the member and making sure that they're equipped. And so what the case was is that the member didn't even feel the need for me to be in the meeting because he was just confident he had the information he needed. It was all provided to him. We don't necessarily need to showboat that we need to be there and say what we need to say. It's not necessary. The member can do that themselves, and that's the best part, is that they'll come away from that learned. And so that's exactly what happened. Go into the meeting. The outcome is exactly what I said before. They can't give a timeline. I contact the member immediately after the meeting and discuss what the next steps are. We organise a plan collaboratively. I say, okay, mate, when are we contacting them next? You know, how often do you want me to follow this up? And we can then, you know, consult, and I can inform the member if it's reasonable, or if that would be a bit of a hassle to just pepper them every day. Obviously, that's not reasonable. So we decide on a week. So a week goes by, or around about 4 days. It's the next Thursday. That happened on the Friday, that meeting with the doctor. And member gets in touch. Hey, mate, you hear anything? No, haven't heard anything. No one, not even from the original letter, got back. He actually contacted them and asked them to provide receipt. They said, yeah, I'll give you a receipt when we receive the letter from your union. Never gave receipt. I called them on his behalf and asked for the same thing. Never got receipt. Eventually it came through. Oh yeah, it turned out we actually did get the letter. So they're just pretending they never saw it, or it ended up in their junk, whatever it was. Who knows? I won't commit to an opinion there because I don't know for sure. But that happens. I send a follow-up email saying, okay, how's the claim progressing? Can you give me an update? And the response I get is, oh yeah, we just informed the member that the claim's been approved. Cool. So no contact this whole time, but literally after mucking around for 3 months, right?
Wow.
Because you knew you were in the wrong and you're trying to weasel out of approving this claim, you know, gave him the berries and said, hello, what are you doing? You know, pull yourself together, pull your head in, stop talking to this guy's doctor and trying to weasel out of this claim, because you're just being sneaky, and go and talk to the person who originally approved the claim, who signed everything. You have all the information you need. Yep, done, dusted. So turn around from 3 months to in 2 weeks, the matter's completely resolved, done. Claim approved. In fact, they didn't only approve it. They then, and this is no credit to us, but I suppose this is how maybe they felt a little guilty. They actually back paid the claim back to when it was originally made, to compensate for the time it had taken to process it.
And so how long was that?
3 months.
Oh wow.
So that's a lot. So like,
that is a lot. So for the 3 months it took to go through this process, they took it from the original submission date.
Correct. I think they back paid him. They ended up deciding to back pay him about 2, because the claim processing time, there is a standard there of about, I think it's a turnaround of about 50 days. Okay. And so I think it was 2 in truth, but they decided to back pay him nonetheless. Member, of course, was stoked, because this is like a complete 180. It's gone from calling up originally being, mate, like I don't know what's going on. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. They seem to think like there's no way to process this. What can we do? I just feel like there's nothing we can do. You know, what are my options? Well, you don't need another option, mate. This is the option you should have been given ages ago. In 2 weeks, just getting it done. And it's just because, you know, it's a perfect example of where a member has rightfully considered their integrity questioned and then made the right decision by getting in contact with their union and using the union in the correct way, which is for advice on these exact matters. And so instead of racking your brain and not knowing who to talk to and where to go, we're the facilitator. We're not there to judge. We're not there to make the decision. We're there to facilitate and make sure that your rights as an employee are upheld and that your entitlements are delivered to you appropriately.
So we're there to act on their behalf and represent their rights,
their best interests. Exactly right. And so that's exactly what we did. We're trained specifically to do that, to find out which parties are in the wrong, which acts and regulations are being upheld or otherwise. And in this instance, definitely not being upheld on 2 parties. The original practicing doctor and the income protection claim company were sorely lacking in, you know, professionalism and upholding the integrity of their own practice, which is just crazy. And so it's important then to also bolster the member. That was one of the best parts of this, is that I really enjoy that we make one of the linchpins of our practice is making sure our members are capable. And so that, you know, they don't have to depend on us to solve every situation. We equip them with the knowledge they need to support themselves, and then they can come to us to investigate further if they need help discovering legislation and things like that. And so it was just a fantastic outcome. It was really good to see how elated the member was just to have something so difficult and that had caused so much stress resolved so quickly. And I was glad to know that the matter could be resolved so effectively. Funny though that I didn't receive one piece of contact until the very end. It wasn't until right at the end, other than a brief phone call, the very end where it was, claims approved, and then just calling up the member. Yeah, mate, I got that email too. That's awesome. How good,
Yeah.
It was really cool.
Excellent. So they kind of had their tail in between their legs.
Oh
so
yeah.
to speak.
Oh yeah. They were before that saying, "Oh yeah, we're waiting on this original doctor. He might get back to us in a period of time." It had literally been 2 months, and he had not gotten back. In fact, he charged him $600 to fill out that form, which he sent back filled out incorrectly.
Wow.
So they had to redo it again and process payments for this doctor. Just the lengths they were willing to go to try and avoid this claim, And look, I never discovered exactly what it was that they were saying was unfavourable to the member, but actions speak louder than words, and that turnaround time and just the no response and just the lack of accountability and just shady business, not willing to bring the member in on meetings and consultation with his doctor, that's just not good practice. And so that just smacks of inappropriateness.
And that's a great point that you made. Actions speak louder than words, because that's what we've been seeing lately, right? We've been seeing a lot of people saying a lot of things, but either their actions differ or they just don't follow through.
Yeah, exactly right. A lot of the time, it's this bluff strategy where they muddy the water with fancy writing in these documents, like I was saying. They muddy the water, so it makes it really hard for the member to understand what the hell is going on, because you need a lot of experience, admittedly, to know, or good coaching and learning to know what that means and what they're actually referring to. And but then they'll do the opposite. They'll be really shady, and that's where every member will know. That they'll call us and they'll know. They'll go, look, something's not right here. And I love that. I love every time a member contacts us for that reason. Good on them. So tell your friends to do the same who are members with us. I encourage people to do that with whichever other union they've got and see what response they get, unless it's substantiated, as I understand it, then they're not interested in helping, and that's where we're really good. We want to arm the member. We're happy to investigate and dig deep and, put a dog in the fight for anybody, because we're members first. And that's exactly what we did here. Just arm that member. Hey mate, this just is weird. People call up, this is just strange. This doesn't seem right. Not always is it a crazy win, but at least that member walks away knowing, I understand my rights exactly. I know exactly what I'm entitled to.
So we're encouraging our members to engage with us and also stand up for themselves, and we're empowering them within their workplace with particular issues that you said. They may look at something and they may have that intuition and go, something's not right here. Yeah, excellent.
No,
so
right.
We're trying to get people to question, if you feel like your integrity is in question, and then engage with us and say, hey, listen, there's something going on here. Can you help me out? Then we start investigating, and that's what you do, right? As a case manager, you get that information, you engage with the employer, and you start to put the pieces of the puzzle together.
Yeah, just take that pressure off the members' shoulders, which is good. The facilitator, go between, we're like the armour, protect you from the damage. So you're not on the front line, we're something in between that will take all the hits for you and handle all of that business, so that at the end of the day, you're just really just making a decision. And that's just good. It's a good peace of mind. It is. It really is, yeah.
And you're making an informed decision off correct, unbiased information.
Yeah, and it's the member's decision every time. Every single time. That member decided that whole time, before that letter went out, that member reviewed. We collaborated to develop the writing of that letter. So it is 100% the member's decision as well. So we won't act on your behalf. We're not going to jump the gun because we're confident in the process. Even if we know we're going to win, it's still your decision if you want to get in there. So
excellent. And it's a good message that we're trying to bring across, is that we empower our members. We mentioned that before, and that's the whole reason why we're here. And if we look at what's been happening in the industrial relations space the last 2.5 years, it's been one of the most tumultuous it's ever been, right? And we've seen where other traditional or legacy union structures have faltered, whereas we haven't. We've grown, we've stood up to that pressure, and we've stood up for our members, and we've remained impartial on a lot of the factors that we've been facing in the industrial relations sector. And now we're starting to come forward and we're starting to have a lot of those wins, in particular with the income protection claims and various other things that we've been discussing on the Redcast series and what we've been discussing with you on our last independent workers union, etc.
Yeah.
So is there anything that you'd sort of like to reiterate with our members, because you do look after a few branches?
I do, yeah, absolutely. If there's one thing, it would be always ask questions. Like whenever you have that question there, call in, write us, please let us know. Like I said, we're always happy to help. And with that other case, it was even a non-member, and we're still willing to investigate and make sure that we can support people where we can. We're very honest about that. So, yeah, if there was anything, one moral to the story would always be, to this particular story, the moral would be, always ask questions. Yeah, don't be afraid to question them. Just because they're like some big corporate body or whatever, who cares? You know, at the end of the day, they're just dudes and chicks just hanging out, running a business. They're just there to make money. That's what they want to do. So
that's right.
Let us know. We're not in the business of making money. We're in the business of putting up a good fight. And I love it. That's the spice. That's the spice in this job. That's what makes me keep coming back for more every day. It's
100%. Good. Well, we're members first, as we keep saying. We're a people-focused organisation. We look at people as individuals and the responsibilities that they have behind them as individuals, and that's why we go into bat for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you don't see, how many other unions have you seen marching down the street at the protests that have been happening the last two and a half years?
Yeah.
I haven't seen any.
Yeah.
We've been there representing our members and our members' choice, and we've been standing up for them, and that's, our actions speak louder than words.
Yeah, that's right. Correct. Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. All right, Jackson. Well, thank you very much for coming on today's episode.
No worries.
We always like having you on Redcast, and no doubt we'll have you on again soon.
Awesome.
And so thank you everyone for listening, taking the time out of your day to plug into Redcast, and we're now going to have the video formats coming up as well. So we're trying to have it as accessible as possible. If you feel as though you do need some representation, please jump online to www.redunion.com.au. You can find us also on our social media platforms. We've got the Independent Workers Union, we've got teachers, we've got nurses, we've got the Business Union. Look for us online, get in contact with us. We'd be more than happy to help you out, have a conversation. Even if you're not a member and a member of another union thinking about coming over, we're more than happy to speak with you.
Absolutely.
Excellent. All right, guys, well, enjoy the rest of your day, and we look forward to the next episode on Redcast.